Hey everybody, this is Dr. Lucier. How are you? I'm going to sit down. I have my Carolina shirt and a cup of decaf because it is late and I do want to go to bed. But I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we have been dealing with the last few days. In particular, some of the changes, or you might say adjustments, that I wish to make with regard to your dissertation in practice and your dissertation proposal. As you know, we're going to give you a bit more flexibility with regard to that, and basically all you have to do is follow Mertler. Mertler gives you good advice as to how to do action research, which is not generalizable. It's not attempting to add to the theory of educational knowledge in your particular area. It is attempting to solve a particular problem of practice. However, the techniques that are used and the use of more than one assessment instrument, or what we would call triangulation, where you use a series of related instruments like maybe a survey and interviews and a control group and other good things that go with traditional social science research. These techniques are still used in order to make certain that your results have validity. In other words, you're looking at it from a variety of angles. And when I say validity, I don't mean validity in the social science sense of the word of these are results that are generalizable across schools, and you're going to get the same results all the time, and the results will be reproducible. You might remember that I had asked you to look at some of the problems with social science research that were instanced in the article in the New York Times, which was also pulled from Science Magazine. Science Magazine did the article, and the New York Times wrote about it and put it on the front page, because there are problems with traditional social science research as it is practiced in this country, particularly in the field of psychology, apparently. I would imagine that these problems exist everywhere. So rather than claiming that what we're attempting to do is to add to the theoretical foundation of education, or that we're attempting to produce reproducible results that will apply in all circumstances like this everywhere, instead, you are focused on a particular problem of practice where you are attempting to solve a problem within your schools. And you've already heard this. So the things that I'm particularly focused on, I'm not backtracking on with regard to what I told you in your papers. The things I put in red I think you need to do to make your paper really, really solid. So when your dissertation proposal committee meets and we talk about what to accept and what not to accept, you have a greater chance of passing that. So Mertler does indeed outline traditional social science methods for gathering and analyzing data. And these fit very nicely within the dissertation paradigm that we have for this program and in this school here at USC. So, still, you're going to get greater flexibility than you would have had in a traditional social science design. Now, some of you are doing designs that really are traditional. So, if you wish to do that, that is entirely up to you. That is something that you can do. Those of us who are not are focused on one particular circumstance. Everybody's focused on a problem of practice, however, and that problem of practice has to have a social justice component. That's the sine qua non. It may have been left out in other courses. Susan is stressing it. I am stressing it. It's on page 1 of the pink paper, which describes your program. Other documents that we've used in the past, both Susan and I, her dissertation checklist, we're going to make some revisions to that in order to give you some flexibility. So that way you are not under the gun to add to social science theory and education, or to have what social scientists call valid, generalizable, reproducible results, such as was instanced in that New York Times article and that Science article, where many of the research studies simply couldn't be replicated under similar conditions. They used the best techniques that they could in order to reproduce with even with the support and the help of the people who initially did the studies, because you're supposed to be able to test this way, even if you just pick something randomly out to do the testing with. And they're finding, like, on the order of 2/3 of these traditional studies don't pass muster, in the sense that there are no statistically significant differences as a result of whatever treatment is proposed, or whatever the design requires to establish a correlation or to yield whatever the results are the social scientist wants. And so you end up with dubious research. All right, in your case, whether or not the research is dubious is determined on whether or not you are able to solve the problem of practice. It's quite literally that. You're attempting to find out how to deal with a particular problem, and it's going to relate directly to your specific circumstances. There is a problem with researcher bias in those circumstances. There's also the issue of ethics with regard to the fact that you are either dealing with employees who are subordinate to you or you're dealing with students. And it's not simply a question of getting parental approval. Even after you have parental approval, you have to account for the fact that some students are going to tell you what they want to tell you simply because they love you. I had a lot of students who loved me. I was a demanding Latin teacher and Spanish teacher. I taught AP Spanish and all levels of Spanish and French before I started teaching Latin. And I had a lot of kids, many of whom stay in touch with me even now, whom I'm very proud of, gone on to college and onto productive lives, who have made me very happy. And I'm sure you have too. Many of you have that experience as well, particularly those of you who have been in this business for a long time. You know what I'm talking about. It is one of the benefits of the educational profession as teachers when kids come back to us and show us all their successes and attribute some of that success to you because you somehow inspired them to learn and to grow and to be whom they have become. Love that decaf. Notice Virginia City, Nevada Cup. I have a Nevada connection, and it's not Vegas, it's Reno. I have family out there. No, they're not native to it, but just to let you know, when I go out west, it's out to Reno. I don't wear a big hat, and I don't have a fancy belt buckle or any of those things. But, I'm definitely the Easterner. But I have family and friends out there, and I went to college out in California, so that area has always been very interesting to me. Even though I live here, and South Carolina is my home forever, this is the place to be. Gamecock country, y'all. Thursday night. Let's see how they do. All right, let's see how they do. All right. But be that as it may, let's put that aside. That's going to be for once I've done my work. It'll be my reward to myself. I'm ruminating at the same time I'm talking to you. I will get your posts read this week. I will react to them in videos by Thursday so that way you have an idea. Just suffice it to say, I'm reading excellent posts. I've already read a third of them, and I've commented on a number of them. I've even asked you to go back and get more information, and I found some excellent posts in both classes, in 726 and in 820. Some of you guys just have almost a passion and interest in some of the topics that we're talking about. And in EDCS 726, where it's ed leadership applied to curriculum, some of the stuff is not very easy to get excited about. I've been talking to Susan about perhaps using a different book other than Josie Bass Reader next year because of the fact that it is so cut and dried. And I would like something that has more of a passionate approach, something like this. But we'll see. This is something that, and you can see what it says here, Grappling with Diversity, Readings on Civil Rights Pedagogy and Critical Multiculturalism, edited by Susan Schramm-Pate and Rhonda Jeffries, both of whom teach at USC, and where I have a chapter that comes out of my dissertation. And it's called World Languages Other Than English Program, WLOE, Confronting Diversity Through Reading, Writing, and Discussion. You see the three things there? Reading, writing, discussion. I triangulated. But it is pure action research, the way Mertler understands it. Love Mertler, by the way. I looked at the latest edition and was thumbing through it, and I found nothing in there that contradicts my essential message to you at all. And so you will see me make more and more reference to him because he has some really, really good ideas about action research. I'd like you to take them to heart. Many of you have had Mertler through another course, that textbook on action research. Others of you are coming into the program with transfer credit. I don't know exactly your circumstances. Or you may have had a teacher who did or did not emphasize this, that, or the other. But he is the first and last word, as far as I'm concerned, on the way we do action research. And even though I didn't read his book prior to doing mine, because I did all of my work from 97 to 2004, I was pleased to see that essentially what I was dealing with was a problem of practice within my own room with my own kids, and that I suggested the implications of being that people could try this and they could also reduce racial stereotyping and build community in diverse student populations, which is what I was trying to do. So I suggest you look at what I wrote because that pilot study could have been turned into a dissertation all by itself. And I didn't do that because I wanted a hermeneutic circle, and I wanted to study what districts said about multiculturalism, and I wanted to theorize multiculturalism effectively first and compare it with both district praxis, school praxis, and my own. So I created this big hermeneutic circle. That sort of hermeneutic interpretation or hermeneutic dissertation is not the sort of thing you're doing. All right, it is the sort of thing I did. And let me stand up for a moment. You will see me in my basketball shorts. I am one of those guys who's just, even though I'm old, I'm almost 60 years old. I turned 60 this year. I'm pretty gym-oriented. And for me, it's just an awesome way to relieve stress. So when I experience stress, I just go to the gym, lift some weights and shoot some hoops and stuff like that. So this is my dissertation. 350 pages, directed by Susan Schrampate. And there is a chapter in here, and I will put it online for you to look at, because I use APA style. So if you want to know how to use APA style and how to talk in APAese, I would suggest you look at my dissertation, because you'll see what I mean in terms of prose style and how to foreground yourself quickly and then pull yourself back, so that way your research does not become about you, but rather about your problem of practice. You're only interesting insofar as you add to the discussion and where you are relevant. This is not a long biography about your own personal peripeteia. For those of you who know what that Greek word means, it means your own journey through life and whatever. All right, that's not what we're looking for. We are looking for, however, problems that you have found, and preferably linked to issues of diversity, where you are dealing with SES, you're dealing with gender issues, and a lot of you have designs that lend themselves very, very nicely to that sort of thing. And you can really not just effect change in a general sense, but also disaggregate for different populations and be sensitive to their cultural background and see whatever it is that you're trying to do, how it impacts them, and what their reaction is to it based on their own subject positions, coming from communities that have, cultural variety, that have a different approach to things. And variety for me has always been the spice of life. I mean, I didn't grow up speaking English. I grew up speaking French. In New England, even though I'm an American citizen, I was born in this country. I grew up in a different culture, so I knew what it was like to be in a school where people came from different backgrounds and how to negotiate that. Not just one or two. Here in the South, it's frequently black and white, literally black and white, particularly in the small towns. Now we have the admixture of Hispanics, and we know that a lot of people in the country are intimidated by that. I mean, you look at the popularity of Donald Trump's campaigns. He talks about, you can have whatever political opinions you want, but he has tapped into a vein of fear when it comes to the increasing ethnic, religious, and linguistic diversity of this country. Probably the United States by mid-century will be a good 1/3 Hispanic, and I'm talking about people who are American citizens who speak Spanish natively. We will be like Canada in some ways. Canada is officially bilingual. 1/3 of the population speaks French. That's my background. And we're Latinos too. We're Latins. And there's some de Latinos, and we have a lot of the similar cultures, including the similar religious heritage, because we're Roman Catholic in background. And Latin people often act the same, whether they're Italian, Portuguese, Spanish-speaking, French, or Romanian. And there's just a certain Latinity in which we all participate, and from which our languages derive. Mother Latin is the source of those of us who are Latins. It's our background. It's who and what we are in our deep, you might say, the deep structures of our culture. I'm trying to fish for words here, but there it is. It's not that it's late either. I'm inspired tonight, so I'm talking. I've got one more minute, and as soon as that minute is up, I will go to the next one. So I would like you to continue, because I want to deal with a variety of issues and let you know where I'm going. And by the way, don't be afraid of the dissertation process. As we prepare new documents for you, we're revising the dissertation checklist. We're revising the checklist for the dissertation proposal. The revisions are not dramatic. They simply provide you greater flexibility. We still want you to have a variety of different ways of approaching the problem. That is roughly analogous to traditional triangulation in a social science model. So we want you to do that. We don't just want one little, treatment given to a class of 20 kids and then that's it. Your action research needs to be more involved and more substantive. Okay, it's 14:53. I'm going to let you go and go to the next one. So go right to the next video, or